Okay, so we move to the next presentation. The presenter, Paul Bigmostad. Sorry about that again.
Yes.
And the title, Commute Path Bandwidth Traces from 3G Networks Analysis and Applications.
Yeah. Thank you. It's working? Yeah. Okay, thanks for letting me present our work here. I'm the first author is Håkon Wieser. He couldn't be here, so I'm presenting for him. This is about bandwidth variation and what we do it for a mobile streaming scenario. Bandwidth obviously varies. You have buildings, hills, tunnels, distance to base stations, other things that will affect how much bandwidth you get for a mobile phone. So what we did in this data set was to log this variation. And due to our use case, we did the TCP download bandwidth as a function of location and of course time of day. And we measure at the application layer, so unfortunately we don't have packet level data. We used NetView, which is now owned by Opera Software, a media receiver that was modified, and a standard GPS and 3G modem, and a server close by. And the data source was real networks. And here you see example of the logs, what we logged. It's Unix timestamp. And then you have time in milliseconds. And then the latitude and longitude, GPS coordinates, and how many bytes were received, and then the milliseconds elapsed since the last one. You are impatient. It will. We will get there. But we had several different ways: ferry, train. Yeah. Okay. So our use case is adaptive HTTP. I don't know if all are familiar with that, so I'll just take a small introduction because this explains why the dataset is how we did it. Video is coded in parallel segments in different bit rates, and they are in a closed group of pictures. So you can switch in the end of each segment, which is typically between 2 and 10 seconds long. So you see down there, you can start at maybe 250 kilobit, and you can switch, go to 500. And in this system, the client controls the bit rate, at least traditionally. No, there are some can also be done in server side. And for when the clients control the bit rates, we need the algorithm to select which bit rate that the client should download. So when making this algorithm, the user, they want a stable bit rate, and they don't want outages, they don't want to wait for video. To get this, we developed a dataset that the algorithms was based on. And of course, then the research purpose is to improve these algorithms, saving good times, spending bad, and use this in our product, which is a device client for adaptive HTTP, which supports the most important protocols, which is MPEG-Dash and HLS, which is an Apple proprietary standard, and Smooth, which is a Microsoft proprietary standard. And the aim is, of course, even though we can switch and adjust the bandwidth, the aim is for a best user experience, it's to have a stable viewing experience as possible. Okay, then we come to your question. We have 6 kinds of logs: bus, ferry, metro, tram, train, car. Today I will present 3 of those. Selection criteria is that it was where the initial 3 researcher in NetView, that was now purchased by Opera, lived. So you see this is all outside Oslo, downtown Oslo, these 3. We start with bus. We got stable minimum 1.5 megabit per second, average 2.5 megabit per second. And we have considerable variation here. This is, you see the gray is standard deviation. And also we had here a problem with GPS signal, and we believe that is because it's a very steep hill to the right, and there is water to the left, because we didn't see this in the other measurements. So, for instance, with the GPS signal, it was up to, in the extreme case, 90-meter error. Left figure sees the different traces, which the green is the road, and the bus was supposed to be in the water. So obviously it's not that part was not really perfect, but yeah, so but it wasn't a big problem for the research. Next was ferry. Here also we had an average about 2 megabit per second when we were close to shore, but much lower, and never above 1 megabit per second when we were far from shore. And maybe this is also quite logical, but it was nice to get data on it. And metro, this also follows logic, I think. It was about 1 megabit per second above ground, and it was close to 0 in the tunnel. It is possible to have bandwidth in a tunnel, but in this case it was really bad. And this also has some algorithm implications, because it's really important to know the path if you want to do a good algorithm when you suddenly run out of bandwidth altogether. So what do we use this for? We did 2 different applications. Could be others, but I'm not really creative, so I'll just present my 2 applications, and then you can maybe think of others. One was to make these adaptation algorithms for our client. We did then measurements and predictions, and we did 2 kinds of algorithms. A reactive algorithm, which is based on all the logs, and the client doesn't know what comes next, and a predictive algorithm, which is path dependent, where the client knows the path. And the last one is the ideal situation. What if we would know all future bandwidth? So we just, that was unattainable for us, of course, but we use it as a benchmark. We have more information in publication here. And the second one is to evaluate adaptation algorithms. There is, of course, multiple streaming clients. So we used real streaming clients from Adobe, Apple, Microsoft, and NetView, which is now Opera. And we then did some tests. And yeah, Microsoft and NetView's client was doing quite well. And yeah, it was a big variation in the bitrate adaptation algorithms of the clients. And also there is a paper there on that. Questions?
So, do we have any comments or questions? Yep.
How about 4G networks?
Hmm?
Do you want to do the same for 4G, for LTE networks?
It will be. This was done quite some while ago. So, and we have no plans to improve the data sets for now, at least. But I mean, in principle, you could, of course, do the same for LTE networks.
Well, but the use cases are very interesting, because you have different moving patterns.
Yeah.
Which is kind of unique and probably not.
I think it's a lot of research to be done in this area, especially when you have a car where you can move wherever, and it's very difficult to predict the path.
Yes.
It was not clear to me what do you mean by prediction? What kind of algorithms do you use for prediction?
In what context?
In the bandwidth prediction somewhere.
This one?
Predicted bandwidth and observed
yeah, okay.
bandwidth.
The top one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we have several measurements, and when we do the algorithms, it's based on previous predictions. It's based on the average of previous measurements, right? So here, for instance, the red one is predicted bandwidth, and that's based on previous measurements. And then we have observed bandwidth, which is much better actually than the predicted bandwidth. So it's not the perfect match.
So how do you do the prediction, like an average?
Yeah, average, and we do this several times, and then we take an average.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. We can move to the